Hello, my name is James Safaju, but everyone knows me as Jimmy, and we live in Byron Bay, New South Wales.
Hi, and I'm Ellen Safaju, and yes, and we live in Byron Bay, just outside of Byron Bay.
My name's Angie. I pioneered to Deniliquin a year and a half ago, which is in New South Wales, and it's about 3.5 hours from Melbourne.
Well, my name is Faridun Misak, originally Misakian, shortened for Misak. Either 86, end of 86 or 87, I think it was around those days that we came to Australia. I can't remember the exact date. And we arrived in Perth.
What made me want to pioneer to Deniliquin was knowing that I was at a stage in my life where I was, in my early 20s, and something that someone said for me to consider was, the type of choices you make while you're young can obviously really shape the type of choices you make when you're, entering later stages of your life. And I never was considering pioneering to Deniliquin. Living in a regional area, I've never seen myself as a regional person. So even 2 weeks before I'd said yes to going, I held strong reservations. I remember I was applying for jobs around different areas like Bendigo and Shepparton, and someone's mum had asked me, "Oh, why not Deniliquin? Why don't you apply for jobs in Deniliquin?" And I was like, because I don't want to live here. And so, it wasn't just but then for some reason, when I was asked, would I consider, and I first actually laughed because I thought that person was joking. And then they had a really straight face and really solemn eyes, and they were they were really serious. And then I thought, oh gee, and then it actually made me think about it. And I was like, I guess I could logistically, but I was only studying part-time, so I knew that I could travel back to Melbourne and keep doing my classes, which is what I ended up doing. Funnily enough, the whole year and a half would be summed up with complete and absolute joy. I ended up living with a family that had a young 2-year-old daughter, and there was another guy my age that pioneered, and then when he left, 2 other girls moved in, and so it was actually just this one big family in the house. And I liked that it was so dynamic. It wasn't just a youth house. It was there was a family there and a child there. And everything that I was fearful about didn't materialize. I'd never felt lonely or, I don't know if it's luck, but I felt lucky in that sense.
What had happened for us to choose Byron is that we had attended a summer school in Lake Cupid. And when we were there, we were very inspired by talks that were there about the heroes of the faith. And also in previous summer schools about stories about Mother and Father Dunn. And all of that was a combination of inspiring things that we really wanted to make our mark in the plan. And at that time, the goals of the plan was to establish a local spiritual assembly in Byron, which was the last spot in New South Wales where there was a need for a community and a local assembly. And so the idea started sprouting in our heads.
At that time, the immigration office asked me that if I would like to work for them, and they offered me a job. I said that, well, thank you very much. But prior to that, I had consulted with the National Spiritual Assembly that we are in Perth, but we want to be in anywhere that the National Assembly thinks it is beneficial for the faith. We don't have to be in Perth. We will go anywhere you say. And they said, well, we need people in Carnarvon. And in Carnarvon, if you can go there, the LSA will be established if you go there. That's how we went to Carnarvon. I started traveling, sometimes go for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I will go to different places. I was hired by the alcohol authority to do part-time job with the alcohol programming in Western Australia. So I was busy with that from one city to another, doing two things at the same time. One was that I think Baha'u'llah arranged this for me to be able to be close to the people in more dignified way of natural way that I worked there and I was helping them and also tell them about Baha'u'llah.
I guess the confirmation that we had that the reason, well, to make the move and come from Sydney to here was my background is in printing, and I've been doing that for over 20 years. And to think that that I'm able to work outside my field and do something else was quite confronting. And having young family, two small kids, and wanting to sort of pioneer somewhere and not knowing how I was going to be able to provide, that was for me a big challenge. And as I mentioned, after being at the summer schools, and we went to Lake Kippet, and we were invited by our friends to come and actually stay at their place for a couple of weeks to suss out the place and see what Byron is like in the area. And after we did that, we actually made the decision that yes, this is a place that we want to pioneer. I spoke to a couple of my friends and told them, look, we want to go to Byron. Let's go up there for the weekend and see what we can do. We started talking, and after our discussions, thought, well, ice cream is not a bad thing. It's something that it doesn't go off. What you don't sell today, you sell tomorrow, and it'll keep. So we thought, okay, well, ice cream shop. And within few hours, we spoke to the owner, and
it was an ice cream business.
It was an ice cream business, and made an offer, and within less than 24 hours, the offer was accepted. Anyway, we bought the business, and I rang up Atlanta and said, Atlanta, okay, we bought a business, and it's an ice cream shop, Baskin Robbins. And I thought, oh my God, as we were driving back, I thought, we don't even know if we have the money to do this, We've gone ahead, bought a business without really looking into it further. And this is where the confirmation started showing. Everything that needed to happen to get the permission from the franchisee, it happened really smoothly and really easy. Went back to Sydney, spoke to our bank. Yeah, not a problem. Lend us the money. And before we knew it, we bought the business, and within less than a month, we pretty much packed up Sydney. I resigned my job, and
3 weeks really.
Yeah,
it was quite amazing because we were staying with some friends until the house was ready. And the first day of school, as we enrolled you, the teacher said, "So, well, are you going to start Bahá'í scripture classes?" And I thought, "Oh, yes." Because in my head, I was thinking, I need to get settled. I need to find my house, move into my house, organize the move first and all this. And I thought, oh, I guess, yes, I can start Bahá'í scripture class. And that was it. So basically, within the first week of my children starting school, we started having a Bahá'í scripture class. So the first day there was only 2 kids, and then it started building up. The next week there was 4 kids, and the next week, and we went up to 40 children who on that within a few weeks, who started our scripture class with us. Confirmations were constantly happening. I was waiting for the school bus with the children, and this lady comes close to me and says, "Oh, I hear you've started Bahá'í scripture classes at the school. I really want my children to be part of this. I've been calling my Baha'i friend in Sydney and saying, why is it that there isn't any Baha'i scripture classes?" And interestingly enough, a few years later, she moved next to another Baha'i further down the street, and she actually joined in going to devotional meetings, and she became a Baha'i. So we had many, many things that happened. Even our children became quite involved in understanding what the purpose of our move was. They understood that we were there pioneering. They understood very early on, and they were quite young. They were 5 and 8 or 7. And they understood immediately that it was something that was necessary to actually interact with people.
So we were like expanding in the field, and I just got like a message from someone was wanting to buy something from me on Depop or whatever. So where you like resell clothes. And what I sent them my postal address. They were actually returning something. They were like not happy with what I had sent them. So that was like a little negative experience in itself. So I was like, cool, refund it. I'll refund it. You can return it. And then like, you know, I noticed at the end of the day, I actually sent the wrong address. And then I was thinking for the whole week, I need to go to the house that package was going to be received and just tell them that, yeah, I did the wrong address and you guys will probably receive something. And if you don't mind me coming to check or whatever. So then I went again a second time with a friend, and this time they were home. So that was nice. And as soon as this lady opened the door, like 65-year-old lady, she invited us in straight away. And I thought, oh, that's nice. I kind of wanted to go in, but like, I'm glad she actually invited us in. And then within the first 10 minutes, we had already started to, I don't know, because she comes from like a Christian background, but she doesn't identify as Christian. And so I think we'd already touched upon like God at that point. Like she was saying some stuff, and then she gave us a tour of the house. It was one of the first houses built in Deniliquin, so there was a lot of history behind it. And again, for some reason, some topic on like God and religion came up. This was all still in a really short time span. And then she just was like, you know what? I think this is meant to be. I think we were all meant to meet for some reason. And we were just like, yeah, I think so. And the fact that she felt that way and she was saying that, just felt it was really obvious. And then from then onwards, like the relationship was, I think she was an extremely generous person. Like we went away with our hands full. Like she gave us oranges, she gave us heat packs that she made herself. And we ended up having a devotional meeting with her at her house. So she actually ran it, and that was like really nice. And we had her and her husband over for dinner, and so yeah, I guess that's like an ongoing relationship. And yeah, these are the types of confirmations where you're like, I mean, that's like a really obvious confirmation story, but it's just one of those crazy things where, and it was one of a few as well, where you're so humbled to be just that tool. Like, I don't think it matters who you are, but if you're there, Baha'u'llah's like obviously going to use you, and he might make you give your wrong address to someone who's really unhappy about a product so that you can meet someone that wants to pray with you. It just reminds you that sometimes you put in so much work and it's just hard to maintain relationships with different families, but then you meet these gems in the community that, you know, I just don't think I would have ever met her if that package wasn't sent to the wrong place. And she had said she'd been praying for guidance and direction, and she felt like this was her answer to, that. And she even said like, I don't know why we moved to Deniliquin. They're from Fern Tree Gully. So she's like, I don't know why we moved, but she's like, now I know. That's a pretty big thing. You meet people and you're like, now I know why I'm here, you know? I think she sees it as like her spiritual journey, and she feels like this somehow plays a part or a role.
There was one man, when I was going to one of these Aboriginal communities, when I was going and meeting some Baha'i people, some friends there, he was there once, and he attacked me very strongly, verbally, and saying all sort of things that you can imagine, that we have our own religion, we have our own culture, we have our own custom. It is pure. We do not want the outsider to come and disturb that. So you are not welcome here. And if you are coming here, continue to come here. So far we have been patient with you. But if you continue to come here, we cannot guarantee your safety. One night after that, so I just kept quiet and said, don't worry. I tried to calm him down that I have come here as a friend, and I have no intention to influence. I in fact respect, because Bahá'í Faith respects the cultures. So when I talking like this, he slowly softened down, and then he said, okay, I don't know what I tell you, you know. So he left. In another time that I had come to the village, And that was maybe after it had been about 2 or 3 weeks or a month later. So in the morning that I was there, somebody here coming to my tent early in the morning. He woke me up by poking into me from the outside of the tent, and he said, "Get up, get up." I got up and opened the zipper, and I saw this man who had confronted me. He said, "You know why I have come here? If you tell me that just to leave now, I will go leave immediately. Whatever you say, I do. I respect you." He said, "No, no, I have come to tell you that I was wrong about you. I have talked to the people of the village and I have been watching you coming and going, meeting people and talking. That I learned and realized that you had no intention of any kind of anything except to help our people, to educate them and talk to them about love and unity and family. And since you have come to these families and talked to them, we have less quarrel and less fights. And it shows that they have improved in their relationship. What is it that you have told them?" I say, "It's nothing. I did nothing. Just introduced them the teaching of Baha'u'llah. And that is what has touched their heart." And then we got into the conversation about Baha'u'llah and all that. And he became a believer. Later on, he became, not right now there, but in the future, he became a believer, and he was defending and teaching the faith in the village. He is the one who becomes a foremost Baha'i teacher in that village.
What I can say about Mother and Father Dunn is, I guess, like, they'd come up in conversations with just like, they'd traveled everywhere around Australia, been through so many like obscure towns. And so that was something that we were aware of. Like, we were like, I think they had been through Deniliquin. And so I guess it's like really cool to get this like overlapping spiritual maps of like, there had been people that had been there before you and now you're there. And I remember even a situation came up with one of the pioneers as to whether they should go for this job that they'd been offered or not. And Father Dunn came up as an example of how he was like this salesman and like, can you sell stuff and still be teaching the faith? And so we were like, that was really interesting. Like, we had this, I guess, someone who, like that was his story, and we were able to see it, how he was able to accomplish that. But then it allowed us to reflect on like the times that we're in and if there's other opportunities that we had. So, it's like someone like that figure allowed us to make decisions about our own choices with work and, the coherence between service and work. So yeah, I think that's interesting that they came up in that way during our service.
Of course, when I came to Australia, that was the first time I knew about Mother Dunn, and Father Dunn as well. What the difficulties that she had to go through, being the first Baha'i in Australia to come. And they had a lot of difficulties. If you read their story, they had economic problems, but they managed to get through all of those. That had a great impact to me. That really they set the example that how devoted, how sacrificial their life was, in Australia.
When I think of Mother and Father Dunn, who arrived in a place they didn't know, and they were elderly, they were over 60, and they arrived and they did all these wonderful things that we hear about in their stories. I think the way we do things now is just so much more easier and simpler than the way it was done for them, that how can we hesitate, to go to places, because we have internet, we have, opportunities and things that really make it easy.
It's made us, I guess, in some ways, be out of our comfort zone. In some ways, being away from family. All my family is in Sydney, but what it has given me is a lot more than what I would have had if I had just stayed in Sydney. As in, like, also materially as well as spiritually, and the friendship, the Baha'is that we've known and we know and we've served together. In our cluster, we're the Far North Coast cluster. Lismore is where I actually work, and is the place where the first Baha'i had declared after meeting Father Dunn.
His name was Oswald Whitaker, yes. So Lismore is the place really where there was the first Baha'i. The first Baha'i came from there.
And in a way, now this is, we've been very blessed to be in a cluster that, we know that Father Dunn was here and the first Baha'i in Australia.
I don't think there's like one word that you can sum up what pioneering means to you, but for me, it's one of the greatest ways that I feel I can give.
Going and pioneering is actually a wonderful way to bond the strength, the links between each members of the family to create a history that is theirs, and that they can actually, then look back on the adventure that it was. And I think we need adventures. We need adventures that are meaningful, and going pioneering is a meaningful adventure.
The most or a big chunk of this pioneering experience was my family, my wife and my children. So I wanted to include my family there because they did the real sacrifice. I was just a showman in the front. They were the backbone. Their encouragement, they were the support. They were the essence of energy for me to be able to do this. I could have never done it on my own alone.